Welcome to today's pro tip video. ScanDecor is striving to provide more useful content. So today we're going to go over cast and transfer hologram foils. We want to show you the differences between them and help you decide which foil is the best foil for your application. Thought we would just start with the ScanDecor machine. We have a ScanDecor single side laminator and sleeker behind me. This is what we did the prints on today. And what I want to start with is what is the difference between a cast hologram foil and a transfer hologram foil. In our catalogs on our website, you'll see a hologram and either it has a C or a T. That stands for cast and transfer. The main difference is a transfer hologram foil is laying down an actual foil on the toner, just like a normal foil would in the sleeking process. A cast foil is a embossing foil material, and with the ScanDecor machine, it's embossing the toner, and you're not actually laying down any material on top of the toner, so there's no foil material on the sheet after the process. So I have two sheets here. This one here, I don't know if you can see in the camera, but this one is a transfer hologram foil. So it's much more bold. There's an actual foil metallic layer that's been transferred onto the toner, and it's on this sheet now. We have a sheet here with cast, and as you can see in the light, it reflects and there is a hologram effect. However, we did not lay down any material on this toner. The foil simply embossed it. One of the questions we get a lot with these foils is, how do I tell a transfer from a cast on a finished product? How do I tell them apart? The easiest way to tell them apart is how bold a transfer foil is compared to a cast. Another way to tell them apart is that we've actually laid down a material here. You can tell there's a transferred foil material on the print. The cast, we didn't lay anything down. It's much more subtle, and it's simply just embossed toner. Another way you can tell them apart is if you can get your hands on the sheet, you can actually rub off a cast foil. So if I use my thumb and just rub like this, put some pressure and heat on it, you can tell that I've muted the effect. It's still there a bit, but I've drastically muted it. Where a transfer material, it does nothing. It's a material that's been transferred onto the toner. So that's how you would tell a cast from a transfer. Another question we get on the transfer and cast hologram foils is, how do I use them? When do I use a cast? When do I use a transfer? The most critical thing is you cannot overprint with a cast foil, meaning that if I put the cast foil down, so on this sheet I put the cast foil down, I cannot send this back through the printer. The heat from the printer in the fuser area would completely decimate the effect of the cast foil. The heat would flood the toner and my embossed effect is gone. So a cast foil has to be your last process. A transfer material, you've actually laid down a material on the toner. This can go back through your printer and you can print beside it, on top, you can do whatever you want. That would be one of the key differences, is that a cast foil has to be your last process. Another difference between these two is that the cast foil you can actually use multiple times. So you buy one roll, but then you can use it up to 3 times, since the foil itself is a laser etched foil. So you're simply embossing the toner and it can be used multiple times, where a transfer foil, it can only be used once because you're laying down that material on the toner. Another reason you would use transfer because of a cast is a transfer is much bolder, because you're actually laying down a material. It really stands out. It mutes the toner behind the transfer foil and it's much more bold, where a cast is much more subtle. So if your customer's wanting a much more bold, noticeable print, then a transfer would be the material for them. We also get asked, what are the pros and cons of a cast foil? Some pros, you can use it multiple times. So it's not as much inventory, you're not ordering as many rolls, your cost per sheet is less, and you can use that roll multiple times. Another pro to the cast films is that when you lay down a cast foil on the toner, it's very translucent, so you can still see the color of the toner behind it, and that works really well for a lot of pieces that you're trying to produce for your customer. Some cons to a cast foil is that it has to be your last step in the process. This cannot meet any heat, whether it's over laminating or going back through your printer. It cannot have any more heat, or else you will lose your cast hologram effect. And it's not as bold, so if you're wanting a bold hologram effect, the cast is not the option for you. We also get asked, what are the pros and cons of a transfer hologram foil? Pros, very bold. If you put this on an image, it's going to stand out. People are going to notice it. Excellent at making your toner stand out. The other benefit to it is it can be any process in making the sheet. So once you lay down this transfer hologram foil, it can go back in your printer, you can over laminate, you can do whatever you want. The heat does not affect this foil. Some of the cons, you can only use the foil once. So once you've laid down the foil, that roll is done, just like a normal transfer foil and any of our other colors. And then another con would be that it is not very translucent. So it really masks the toner behind it, and you mostly just see the hologram itself since you are laying down a layer of foil. Another question we get very often is one more expensive than the other? And it is. The cast is a lot more money per roll than transfer foil. However, a cast roll of foil you can use up to 3 times. So per sheet over 3 times it's actually less, but upfront cost cast is more money. And the reason the cost of a cast foil is higher is it's a laser etched foil, so the cost of manufacturing is much higher than a transfer foil. I trust this pro tip was helpful to you. ScanDecor is striving to provide helpful content, and if you have any further questions on cast or transfer foils, please reach out. If you want to look at equipment to lay down the foils, feel free to reach out. Our sales team would be happy to help you. We have units from being very entry-level, low-cost to high-speed commercial. Either way, we're happy to help you. Thanks again for watching.